like I was saying, normally in the past we'll do a notification
Yeah.
and then people will get that.
Right.
We'll do a notification and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Schoolboy error.
Well, that's good that's working.
Yep, we are indeed live. Yep, your head's moving, so's mine. Get to a certain point where your head's still moving, that's good.
Let's just hold on, buddy. I just want to see who's. So we've got 3 in the chat.
Three in the chat, yeah. Good morning, people in the chat.
You good catching up with you on the Johnny Bean show the other. When was that? Yesterday, last night.
Was it yesterday? Were you on for the whole of Jay's Kiesel saga?
No, I was lucky enough that when I jumped on, that he replayed it for me. He went through, and I was lucky enough. I remember when he.
Oh, look out! It's Guitar Hack. What are you doing? How you doing? Still up?
I remember when he got that, and I have this vivid memory that he wasn't that happy with it when he was showing it off. You knew.
You did, Mr. Hack. You made it for the show.
I made it for the show. I'm up. Yeah, we haven't seen him for a while. I've been watching your shows, mate. And I flick through the ones that I don't watch live, but I do keep an eye on you, buddy. It's always great to have a listen to see what you've got to say.
I was watching his rehearsal video earlier on Facebook. Cooking with Hack.
Cooking, and we've got Kubrick Lover
1972
back again. So thank you, Kubrick Lover, for joining us. Might just visit for a short while. A short while's fine. Simon and I are happy to have you here for 30 seconds.
Yes, good morning, Kubrick Lover 1972. Great name, by the way.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk nothing really for a couple of minutes, guys, until
get into it. Yeah,
until some people jump on, because we've been having a bit of an issue with the sound situation when I do a notification and send an invite out for Simon. If you guys are regular viewers, you'll know that it's been a bloody nightmare sometimes for us to get that working, and the only way that it can work is to just keep going through that cycle.
Yeah, do guys in the chat, do you use Google Hangouts, and do you have this trouble as well, where one person can't hear the other person? Mainly, Andrew can't hear me when I come into the things. The only way we've found of doing it to just redo the link, redo it completely, and might have to do it 2 or 3 times, but then then it'll work all of a sudden, and we haven't changed anything or done anything differently. It just seems to work.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the way currently Google Hangouts is working. It's very useful. It's a feature, a software feature.
And that kind of explains what happened with Carl there for a while when we were doing the Stones show. There were a few issues there that we had, and I kind of thought it was his cell phone, his iPhone. But to be fair, in hindsight, it probably wasn't. It was just the fact that,
probably Google Hangouts is not sometimes. I mean, I presume we're linking into a central server somewhere.
So Hack's saying he understands it happens on Mac. But no, I'm not using Mac, I'm using PC.
Yeah, he's using a PC. I'm using an iPad Pro Air 2 Hack. So
And Sonia.
So it's Sonia there as well. She is. Good morning, Sonia. How you doing? Hope you're good. Yeah, that's like Hack. You have to start a new Hangout, which is what we've been doing. But it's been 2 or 3 times, and we've been going round in circles. Obviously, it's a bit more a common problem. I'm glad somebody else has had it, and that seems to be the solution, which is good. Might happen on iPad. Seems to a bit.
So
I haven't I haven't tried it on my Samsung phone, which I suppose we could do.
Yeah.
It's a very small thing to look at.
Yeah. Carl was using his iPhone, and he found that a little bit frustrating too sometimes. But yeah. Maybe we can check it out. But yeah, my apologies.
Don't get me
for not
started on
making,
Apple.
last week, Simon. I had a had to shoot out and have a chat with some people I know that couldn't be avoided.
Right, bad luck.
Yeah. Well, you know the story, and it's not. We don't need to repeat it on air, but always appreciate you coming back.
No problem. It's, we all got it, and we all got the issues, stuff going on in our lives. It really isn't a problem.
Hey,
as far as I'm concerned.
Before we forget, I'm mindful that you didn't finish talking about your guitar
trip to Italy. My crazy trip to Italy.
So can you finish telling us about that, please?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. I mean, for the benefit of those who don't know, I'm sure everyone knows. Banging on about it. I went a couple of weeks ago. I went to Italy for on a guitar breaks holiday. So basically, it's take your guitar, go and play guitar all day, and get taught quite a lot of things. Buy a couple of Morning Wednesday store. How are you doing? Buy a couple of 3 professional guitar players in a sort of rural setting in Italy. Very nice. And and hang out with a load of like-minded blokes, pretty much, to talk gear and try out pedals and things. There's a guy there called Emilio who has his own little company called Cornerstone Pedals. Check them out; they're really cool, really nice. He's just done a new pedal called the Gladio, which is, I'm not sure I'd understand this too much, by the way, but he's done basically it's 2 sides of a Dumble.
Wow.
A Dumble overdrive special. So he's got like the clean side and the drive side, which he's done, and basically it's in a pedal. But that's his new release. That's just out. I played it. It's an amazing pedal. Made an amazing sound as well. I'm not sure, in spite of me, not because of me. But it was an amazing pedal, and he's got a load of other stuff. He's got like antique drives and things, which are much more kind of 60s things, not too heavy. It's so he's got a compressor as well. I think it's called the Sparkle. But anyway, check him out. He's lovely bloke, lovely young guy, just starting out. So yeah, just check him out. He's sells very good pedals at competitive prices. That's my advert from Emilio because I like him.
Cool.
He's a really nice guy, and yes, we had a lot of interesting conversations with him. I mean, he bought the Gladio. He bought the prototype of it, for us to try because he wanted 20 guitarists worth of input into it to see. Am I going next time? What, on the Guitar Breaks or Wednesday store? yeah. Andrew's joining me. I've got a little way to go. He's got a long way to go. I don't know. 20 hours to Rome, I think. Andrew, is it? That'll be about right. But and they had some boutique amps there. And also some not boutique amps. I tried, for instance, they had a Boss Katana. There's some Boss Katanas there as well. 50-watt Boss Katanas. They're pretty cool. Yeah. Made a good sound.
Wow.
And I was perfectly happy to play through one of those. In fact, we used them at the gig. That we played on the Thursday night. One of the things you do is on Thursday night we play a gig in the local bar, and lots of people come, and it's everyone does 3 or 4 songs, 2 or 3 songs, however many you want to do. I think I did 3, nearly 4. But get out and just play it. And the guy who runs it, Ian, provides a band. So he's there's a girl singer and a very good bass player and a very good drummer. you know, who know lots of stuff, and they laid it, you know. So if you say to them, "I want to do this," more often than not, they'll they know it, so they can back you if you want to do that. So I'm normally get up in pairs or something, and maybe we have one of the pros get up as well to give us a professional sheen. But it's I mean, for me, one of the basic things is just being away. You know, it's a bit like a retreat.
Sure.
It's not much, there's not much phone signal,
Yep.
although the only person who got through to me was my middle daughter Saskia, who rang me and said, "Can you put more money on my dinner card, Dad, for school?" Which I spent 20 minutes running about trying to find some Wi-Fi signal to do it. But you know, that's the brilliance of kids for you. You know, never mind that. Never mind you're in the country where there's no signal. I could get through to you.
How's it going, Dad? You know, are you having fun?
No. She's 15, Andrew. You don't get that when you're 15. You go,
No.
Dad, I haven't got any money. Never mind what you're doing. It's somewhere in Italy, swanning about in Italy. Makes no impression on a 15-year-old whatsoever. Quite rightly. But
so you spend most of the days jamming with guys. Do they give you a sheet or some tabs of what you have to learn, or is it something that you guys just do spontaneous? Is it spontaneous?
Spontaneity, yeah. It's not. No, basically, we've split up into small groups, say half a dozen each, and we'll go into a room with one of the pros, the guitarists, and they'll teach us some stuff. You know, something like so. We had. And this is good. This was good. Good morning, Dan Halen. How you doing? So we had a Canadian guy called Ariel Posen, who's I've talked about him on here before. He's a really good guitar player, and he will get you all to play and do stuff, and he'll say, "Do this," and you know, and then he'll do a bit of critique of what you're doing and what you're not doing, and stuff. That's really good. So we have kind of passed the lead, you know, only 3 amps, but that doesn't matter if there's 6 of you. So he'll say, right, so the bloke, so he'll start over here, and then he'll start over there. He passes the lead to you. You play, pass the lead round kind of thing, which works around. So he's very good at that. And then we also had a guy called Mike, who's a proper guitar teacher. Yeah, he's a guitar teacher. He spends his life teaching guitar, so he taught us some stuff as well. Kind of, what's funny is he taught us stuff about triads. You know, so he was getting us to do 1, 3, 5, but all over the neck. Yeah, I could show you. I could show you very badly on my very bad guitar. I don't know if you can see this, but you can go. This is an A. Okay, that's 3 notes with an octave, so you can do it. Oops. So it's the same thing as starting, but that's the 3, 1, 5, 3, 1. So yes, 3, 1, 5. So he was teaching us how to do those. That's a very simplistic version of it, but just to learn how to play triads within chords, you know, and those 3 little 3-note chords that you could do. Really interesting, and we got stuck into that. And I've got a video from one of the guys who actually videoed it all. But there's a year's worth of practice just in one session.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that you learned, because I remember years ago when I went to a blues jam and I was with a couple of guys and we were doing full chords. I remember doing full chords, and I remember a guy saying, "Don't do that, man. Don't do a bar chord. Just do some." I think he used fragment. Just fragment your chords, because you're playing with another guy. Yeah. I never really got it until a couple of years later.
Like that, like just the 3 chords like that.
Yeah. But
beautiful.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. We went a bit further than that, and we.
Arvin.
Arvin, how you doing? Good to see you, man. We went a bit further, and we started doing. And this is a lot of, in that in each position, we started to play all the chords in each position.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you were an A, you could play an A chord, you could play a D, but you can also play a C chord, which is a true. I've only got small hands, so it's quite a stretch. And
Sure.
learning all of those things, you know, and you're going, oh right, okay, so so that you didn't necessarily weren't roaming around the neck all the time. You could actually play, you know, if you were in the key of A, so on the 5th fret, you knew how to play a G, and you knew how to play a C and an F, you know, and all those things, and which are all possible, you know, perfectly possible. So we spent quite a lot of time doing that with Mike, and that was really interesting. As I say, we spent some time with Ariel, kind of talking about building solos and stuff like that. You know, starting low, starting slow, and building up and things. Just go back to the triads thing. The weird bit was that having done this and kind of got this into my head and just started doing bits and pieces of it. Yesterday, I don't know if you saw it. Pete Thorne went live from the Thomann thing. There's a Thomann event on in Germany where a load of YouTubers are. It was really worth watching because they had Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show on, and he started talking about the same thing because what's he called? They'd had, I think, Sonny Landrison on their show, and he'd showed them this as well, and Mick was like, "Wow, this is thing," and it's like, "Wait a minute, I just learned that as well." So for once in our lives, we're on the same level. That's not going to happen again.
So is that something that you're going to incorporate into your live gigs? That technique, or is it just something that you've got in the back of your mind that you're just going to pull out when you're jamming at home?
Well, I think it's probably not immediately, but I think that thing about, as you said, about why you're playing all bar chords, you know, full things, when that's part of it, but also part of it is knowing it's knowing the neck properly. So, you know, if you're an A, then knowing what the 3rd and the 5th is, knowing, you know, from wherever you are, you know, on the neck. So if I'm an A, so I know that's a 3rd above and that's a 5th, and and all of those things. Just into one's playing as a technique that you can then start incorporating into your solos. But I think that's probably a little way off for me. But it's you know, I find that it was really interesting, and everyone really got into it and was doing that quite a lot and things. And so it's oh look, it's a dog, a little dog.
Hello, say hello to the people out in YouTube land, Bog.
Bog. She's called Bog, is she? That's a great name for a Bog. Bog the dog.
No, her name is Pepper.
Oh dear. Named after Hack, I hope.
Yeah, you're named after Hack.
Yeah. No. You've arrived at Hack when you've got a dog named after you.
I think from a personal point of view, though, Simon, and we've discussed this before on other shows when we've spoken about guitar playing. We actually get better as we get older, and that's the great thing. If you know people are in the chat who are getting older and playing the guitar, we do get better. It's a fact for me. When I consider what I was playing and what I was doing 5-10 years ago, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, completely. You know, when you learn a bit, and then it's, you know, little islands of learning, isn't it? And it's just joining them up so that they kind of, you know, you think, oh, yeah, all right, I could do maybe a bit more of that now than I could do before, you know, whether that's any use. And Guitar Hack says he's got a dog called Pepper too. All dogs are called Pepper on here. That's it. No one's allowed a dog called anything else. That's very nice.
So you know how we're getting older and better.
No.
As we play.
Yeah.
Do you think guys like Keith Richards and Eric Clapton, you know, who are in their 70s now, and Ronnie Wood and Jimmy Page, do you think that they are getting better?
That's a difficult question. I think that you've got a kind of crossover point. You're right. You do get better as you get older, but I mean, as with Eric Clapton, I don't think about Keith particularly, but without his physical deterioration, this issue he's got with his hands, is probably that bit where he starts to become less good because because of the physical bit. Although interestingly, on this hark back to this Thomann event in Germany, Rob Chapman's there, and he was saying that he interviewed Clapton just a few months ago, and
wow.
he said that he interviewed him for an hour. That he said when he started off, he was a bit rubbish, and then all of a sudden, when he got warmed up, he said he was just amazing. He said it was this contrast. When I first started on this, the fingers are stiff and it's not all really working. It's bit of grinding over the gears and stuff. Then all of a sudden, the oil clicks in, and all of a sudden, he said it just was amazing.
Wow.
Playing. So I think to some extent, sometimes it's not one thing, is it? You're probably better. What you play, you've probably figured out a lot more. You're more in the sort of Picasso line. Few notes here and there rather than millions of notes. But I think that physical deterioration is for people in their 70s and stuff, is probably of some hindrance.
It becomes an issue of stamina, doesn't it, as opposed to technique or skill. You look at Charlie Watts, for example. How old's he, Simon? In his 70s too.
70s, yeah.
Still playing the drums.
I think that I do think you're right. There's a thing about sort of fire in your belly, isn't there? The fire in your belly, the passion. I think if you're in your 70s, maybe you get a bit tired, and maybe you don't always perform with the same kind of fire as you might have done when you were younger. Yeah. So I think there's a kind of crossover point. It's that's right. Wednesday. So you've seen a video with Clapton in the studio with bandages on his fingers and stuff like that. It's an inevitability. I don't think, for instance, Keith Richards, I don't think he's got a funny finger, isn't he? He's got a crook finger, which doesn't seem to affect him at all. It just looks a bit weird. But he doesn't seem to have lost any of his playing ability, does he, Keith? I don't know.
No, I think he's still playing fine. I look at him at clips of him regularly on YouTube, and he's playing fine. Admittedly, a lot of the songs though that they perform, a majority of the stuff that he's doing is in open G. So, but the key for him playing in open G is the timing, and that's still there, Simon. That timing thing that we hear about, or that we experience every now and again, or we know when it's not there when we're playing. We all get frustrated because we know the timing's not there. And have there been times when you've been jamming or rehearsing or playing and the timing's not there, Simon, and you get pissed off?
I think from day to day, I notice it from day to day. You play some days and you think, God, what's happened to my, it's all gone. It's like, the magic is not magic in my case, but it's kind of. And then there's other days you go, oh look, I've got a kind of fluidity to it.
Yeah,
I think the art of that is, and I think that is that. Yes, Wednesday, so put him in standard tuning, see what happens. Keith Richards puts Keith Richards in standard tuning, see what happens. Could be a car crash, yes.
Might be.
I don't know what to do, forgotten. But just go back that way. So I think there are days when my fluidity and is much better than others. But I think that's a daily thing, and everybody feels that. I think even the greats sometimes feel it's all a bit off and not really happening, and then another day it'll be happening. That one of the guys, one of the guys on our course, Ariel Posen, he's probably the best I've seen at. And there are some videos of him doing it. He plays live, and he'll do like improvisations live, and he'll and sometimes you can tell that it's like, he'll start, and he don't care. He just steps off the cliff and starts playing, and you could see it's a bit angular and a bit kind of not quite there, and he's kind of scrabbling around for an idea, and it might be 15, 20 seconds of a bit, and then all of a sudden, you get a couple of notes, then you get three, and you go, oh, right, there we are. There's the groove, there's the thing, and off he'll go. And you think, that's one of my favorite things about him is his ability to just step off the cliff, and start something, and not even worry if starts off not going very well, not very, because it will come. He's such a good player that there's no any problem about it. But finding that inspiration and finding it, getting it into focus and starting to play, and it's quite amazing when you see it, in any context, sitting in a room, and he'll start it. Oh no! Oh yeah, okay, here we go. Yes, found something. Yes, there we go. Off we go. And playing interesting stuff.
Dave makes a good point about OpenG tuning. Has, in a sense, prolonged his career, and then by default, I suppose, prolonged the career of the Rolling Stones.
True. I think Kubrick Lover 1972 so Keith Richard also takes the low E string off his guitar.
Yeah.
so he's down to 5 strings, open tuning. Slightly lessening the amount of things you have to do. Well, that's his thing, isn't it? That's his
you got to do it. If you're playing OpenG,
cheers, Dan Halen. Take care, mate. Get some sleep. California. Yes, Dad's off to bed in California.
So there's my tribute.
There we are.
Richards Telecaster. That's still to be finished, but again, there's the 5 strings there.
In OpenG?
In OpenG, yeah, it's permanently set in OpenG, Simon.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So practically, what difference does it make not having the bottom E string?
Okay, so when I first started playing OpenG, I kept the bottom E string on.
Yeah.
But then I was getting a little bit confused going back from OpenG to standard. So, because your root note on OpenG is that string.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see. So basically, you take the bottom E string off because that's not your root note.
That's correct.
And you tune the A down to G, and G becomes the bottom. Yeah, okay, yes. So that's interesting. Yeah.
So from that perspective, it's much easier going from OpenG to standard, because we're used, as we guitar players, we're used to that E string being your to locate where your root is.
Yeah, no, complete. Yes, no, that's right, okay, that makes perfect sense. Yes, your bottom string on the guitar is it becomes the bottom string which you play, and you just take off the E because that's not going to be G, and if you're in G, you want the bottom string on your the bottom tone string to be the G, not right, okay, yeah.
So
that's interesting, yeah.
So when do you think then we start losing it as guitar players?
Well, I would. Yeah, that is a tricky question. I would say probably. I think it depends. To be honest, I think if physically you're okay, your hands are okay and stuff, then probably you can comfortably play into your 80s. Andrew, hold on 1 second.
Sure.
It's in the dryer. So I think that you comfortably play. Muddy Waters and people like that played. B.B. King played well into his 80s, late 80s, didn't he? you know.
Well,
And he must have had some deterioration in his late 80s, but what he played, but probably he just reduced himself down to a few notes because he's BB King, you know. And that way, it's that Picasso thing, isn't it? You know, just a few strokes of the pen, paintbrush.
I look after myself, Simon. I make sure that I don't do anything that's strenuous that's going to affect this hand here, because I had carpal tunnel about 10 years ago.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So
that's nasty.
Yeah. And I managed to get over that. But about 5 years ago, I gave a friend a hand to do some sanding, and I remember I was on a sander all day, and then that's okay. And it wasn't until the next day when I went to play the guitar where I just couldn't do it. So there's a lot of things that I don't do physically because I want to make sure that I can still fret.
Yeah, it's interesting. See this. This finger is sort of arthritic, so that it hurts. Yeah.
Wow.
Fortunately, it's only the picking one. But you can see where it's like thicker at the bottom here than it is at the top. It's like two different fingers, one inside the other. But you see, that's a kind of irritation to me. Well, it's all right, but I'm too far with this. But you kind of think to yourself, it does affect. Fortunately, this hand's right. I suppose as good as it's ever going to be. So I think it's a hack. Good night. Thanks for joining. It's very nice.
Good night, bro. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, take care.
Make sure I get a chance to jump in and say hi when you're live. Dave's mentioned something interesting too. People forget how to play. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yes, it's and it's yes, that's interesting. Yeah, they kind of stop, I suppose, do they, or they kind of, or their brain. I mean, I would have thought that actually, if it's it's a motor skill, that muscle memory skill, a lot of it. You could, that you would remember kind of how to play. But get very rusty. I think lots of people stop and then maybe start again, and it's sort of gone then.
I took the opportunity in the weekend, Simon, to watch that Ginger Baker film.
Oh yeah, I found something interesting about it. Go on, yes. What do you reckon? Careful, man. Careful. Okay, they're watching us.
Yeah. Do you think parts of that film were staged, acted out? Is Ginger Baker really an arsehole?
That's such a difficult question. Is he really? I think he's. I think he's one of those people who doesn't suffer fools gladly, and we all know them, and they cannot disguise their kind of, their disgust or about somebody who's just might be being a bit dumb or a bit whatever, like we all are a lot of the time. He can't quite bring himself to and as you get older, it only gets worse. Let me tell you that I think that's much more about it than anything else. He's always not really suffered fools gladly, and he's actually always really been like that.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, Simon. I thought it was fascinating. I don't think I appreciated actually how bad he was when he was on drugs. Clearly he was. He was a junkie. And
clearly
there was a fascinating little snippet that I didn't realize where and I probably knew it, but it didn't register until I had seen the film, where Ginger Baker was the catalyst for starting that band. He wanted to perform with Eric Clapton because he said that Eric Clapton had that key thing, timing.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
And obviously, Jack Bruce did, but and that's when Eric turned around and said, "Okay, yeah, I'll join you, I'll play with you, but we'll get Jack Bruce."
which is, and they, of course, they'd already been fighting, hadn't they? In the previous, didn't they? Wasn't there? Didn't Ginger Baker sack Jack Bruce from a band? But then he kept turning up.
Yeah,
which is absolutely hysterical. I mean, those two. Yes, those two are the same room. Sounds like a recipe for fire, and indeed works.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that, and you know, this thing of timing, and then he's describing timing, and then how he found who was this guy, some English guy. I didn't take notes. I'm sorry. Who was a junkie, and he took him into his room, and they played some African music. And this is in the early 60s. You know, these guys are listening to the drumming, and he's asking Ginger if he can. Does he know the timing? And Ginger's going, it's 4/4 or something, and he goes, no, listen again. Yeah, you know,
right.
And then
was it another musician? Was it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Graham Bond.
Yeah.
Graham Bond?
No, it wasn't Graham Bond. It was another drummer.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, fascinating. Just completely blows me away what you English cats were doing in the early 60s and right through the 60s. You know, you guys were internationalists with your music, 40, 50 years ago, listening to, what is it, world music. You guys were listening to world music before world music became popular.
Existed, yeah. Let me just show you this a minute, Andrew. Look, I don't know if you can see it, so I'll see if I can get it close to my thing. Can you see that? Can you see who's commented on that? This is me and my nephew. Can you see who's commented on it?
Ginger Baker.
I think, well, yeah, the official Ginger Baker, because he's got a little blue tick by it, if you notice.
Yeah.
So it's the official. Now, obviously, I don't think it's not him, but I think that was his daughter. I think his daughter does his social media and stuff like that, and she saw me and my nephew commenting about it. Unfortunately, we hadn't been that, and she decided to kind of come in, which is really cool. I thought that was really good fun, but yeah. So I don't think he does it, but I think yes. I mean, those old boys. I do think that's very funny that even in 2005, when they reformed with Green, they had he said Jack Bruce just turned his amps up, right up and bloody damaged his hearing even more.
I listened
by playing so loud. Oh dear.
I listened to that album 3 or 4 times over the last 4 days, and it's phenomenal. That 2005 album, it's one thing to watch the DVD, but if you put in some AirPods or something and listen to what they're playing at that age, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, the pictures can quite often be a distraction, can't they? From you get a different vibe from watching people, I suppose, than you might do if you just sat down and listened to it and just, the music is the only thing you hear, kind of thing, which I think is that's an interesting point, isn't it? You concentrate more on the music rather than people's body language and things. But it's an amazing documentary, that, isn't it? Ginger Baker's daughter, by the way, she's an author. She's written 2 books about being sort of rock star's daughter, and there's a new one coming out. I just for some reason, I can't remember why, it came up on my Facebook feed yesterday. It just appeared. Can you
send me that link, please, if you get a chance? I'd love to.
I'll have to find it, but if I can find it again, I can send it to you. Yeah, because she wrote a book last year about it, and
talking about growing up as Ginger Baker's daughter.
Yeah, and also being around bands and things like that. So I never quite know whether it'll turn up again or not. You know what these things are like in Facebook; they turn up and disappear, kind of thing.
Is she thankful for that experience, or does she have?
Well, I've not read the book, so I don't know. So I think they just, I don't know whether it's an anecdotes thing, whether it's a what it is, but it's it just struck me. I thought, oh, no, I was mentioning that to Andrew tomorrow, because it's quite funny. I think, blimey, the synchronicity of it. Sorry.
No problem.
So I don't know. Yeah, so that was quite interesting as a sort of passing by. I don't know. It probably isn't going to appear on my feed again, is it? Anyway, but I'll look for it later and see if I send you the link to it. Actually, what I'm better do is a better idea is probably just to goggle it.
Yeah, Kubrick Lover. I play my guitar every day too. Do you, Simon? Do you play every day? Yeah.
Get your guitars out. I do play every day. I have it. I have it on the sofa, and if I've got 10 minutes, I'll be there sitting down, playing it, and kind of, absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
I play every day, and if it's not 10 minutes, it's bloody a couple of hours. But we have to be mindful. We've got other things we have to do too, Simon.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. Yes.
I have to earn a living.
Don't we all? Yes. although not today. I've got the day off today. I have because I'm a UK civil servant. I get the Queen's birthday off.
Well, we had Queen's birthday weekend here in New Zealand last weekend, and we get that Monday off too. So that's a long weekend.
Here we are. This is what I was talking about. If you could see that. Ginger Baker's daughter, Nettie,
returns to tell more tales.
Yeah. I don't know. Scroll it up. You can see. She looked quite the character, doesn't she? If that's a picture of her.
Wow, she looks like a punk rock chick there.
Well, I think this is something to do with some punk rock stuff. Can you read that underneath?
Yeah. Okay, I won't talk. Sorry. Can you talk so you can go back on?
Yeah. I can talk. Am I back on? Yeah. See. So I think it's part 2 of seemingly Rockstar Tales kind of thing, isn't it?
Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of. She's got various people touched. So it's. It's about what she was doing, I guess, around those times. I don't know what her involvement is. Be interesting to see, but what she was what's she doing? Arvin says he gets Queen Victoria's birthday off. At least I'm up with the times, Arvin. At least I get the Queen Elizabeth II's birthday off. Queen Elizabeth I. Yes.
Yeah, we were all part of the Commonwealth, brother.
Yeah.
All part of the British Empire.
Part of the British Empire. That's part of the British Empire. Now we voted for Brexit. We're getting it all back again. I can tell you.
Yeah, that's right. So Britain pulls out of the European Union and claims its former colonies back.
You can laugh, but you know what, Andrew? I'm afraid that is people like Jacob Rees-Mogg. That's their kind of, their goal is to reignite the. What is he thinking? Reignite the British Empire. We're all going back to the 1930s because it was better then, wasn't it? No, it wasn't, Jacob. Not even a bit.
No, it wasn't.
Did you see my?
It wasn't because you guys had the black shirts there too.
Yeah, and all of that. Yes, well, yes. See, and that's this thing, harking back to a past era of, croquet on the lawn and scones and jam or something. Or a world of black and white, which it actually was. Rationing and it's like anybody who wants to live in the 1930s compared to now it's nuts. I mean, really.
Well, I'd love to be in the late 60s in London if I could.
Yeah, well, just the colours just started to come in then. I do you remember, colour TV and colour everything. But I can understand that. But you know, this kind of, you know, harking back to some age that never existed, you know, of kind of bad. Anyway, look, we'll get on to politics now. Now you've got me started. We could be here for 3 weeks. Soapbox.
No, we avoid politics. We can.
Sorry,
Yeah. Because I love politics too. But
I'm going to say one more thing. What annoys me more than anything else is the lack of truth.
Yeah.
If I put it like that, you know. Can I give you one, for instance, just for as
Sure.
an amusing? I don't know if you've picked this up, but in the UK, there's been this sort of, one of the clarion calls of the Brexiteers has been, we're getting our passports back. Right? I don't know if you know about this. Basically, we used to have a sort of nearly black passport, yeah, right. And this is our new. So I promise you, this is true. So, and we went from our black passport, we went to this red one, which is, you know, epitome of everything we hate. So, which is the EU passport.
Sure.
But the truth of it is that the red passport, right? We chose ourselves. The EU did not. They didn't. They had no interest in what colour your bloody passport is, actually, at all. We chose to have a new red passport to show, you know, we were in the EU as a sort of thing. We thought it would be a good idea. So we had a new red passport. So we chose that ourselves, right? The black one, the one that everyone's going, yes, we're getting our passport back, that was imposed on us in 1921 by a predecessor organisation to the EU called the League of Nations.
Yeah.
So we're going from the one we chose ourselves back to the one that we were given by Europe in 1921. Under the guise of we're getting our passports back, you know, that's the sort of thing you know, it's like, really, you know, and that's kind of annoying. Anyway, Simon, back to the guitar, quick.
Sure. Yeah, I was fascinated by that Ginger program, and I would say if you're a cream nut, I would say it's mandatory watching.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, about that early stuff, and you know, but that amazing. I mean, how Jack Bruce, I can't imagine what that was like. And you can imagine poor old Eric being in the middle of these two guys who just patently loathed each other, you know, and would do anything. I haven't delved into this, but they used to sabotage each other's instruments and stuff. I can't imagine, you know, being in a band where you would sabotage somebody's instruments. You know,
it was interesting too that Ginger was talking about money. Obviously, that was a big issue for Ginger over the years too, because he mentioned it a few times that, you know, he talks about, you know, White Room, and you know how he added the percussion, and you know they just wanted the White Room to be in 4/4 or something, and he had the you know, the different time. And he said, and I made that song, but what did I get? What do I get for that?
That old classic of one day the band wake up to find that the writers of the songs are in the mansion on the hill, and they're still in a 3-bedroom semi-detached in you know, where they came from. It's like, how did that happen? Because the people who write the songs get all the money.
Separate song.
You know, I think that's really one of, you know, it's a major issue in rock, isn't it? You know, that, and you see that all the time.
We saw it with Mick Taylor. You know, Carl's mentioned that a few times on the Stones shows. You know, he wrote riffs and contributed to songs, and he's not mentioned on. Well, he gets no royalties.
See, it's all Jagger Richards, isn't it? Pretty much, aren't they? The Stones all pretty much all Jagger Richards songs, and even anybody who contributed any more than that is just not credited. And I think it's, you know, it's one of those things where you're either competitive about it, like Queen, where there was like they all wrote and therefore they all got songs on albums, and it was it was a fight to get a song on an album, but they tended to. Or you're like, the two examples I can think of best are U2. Now U2 have an agreement that all songs are written by U2.
Yes.
Because they obviously realised, or somebody said to them early on, you know what would be a good idea if you all You know, nobody comes with a fully fledged song. You know, the drummer, the bass player, everyone contributes to it. So why don't you split out some of it? You know, so everyone gets a percentage of the royalties. REM were the same.
Bono says some very, very cool things about that. But Bono said, I might come up with the words, the lyrics, and the Edge might do 95% of the chord shift, but we know that song would never be as great as it is, or it could be, if it wasn't for the other two guys in the band. And that's what we are. We're a band, so we're going to do everything together. We decided right from the word go, we were a band, we're a gang, 4 ways. That's it. We all go together. And man, I love that. I think that's fantastic. And they've stuck to it, what, 30 years later?
40.
40.
40, then 1980, yeah. I mean, it is getting close to 40 years. But yeah, and I think it's one of the things that stops that, and it helps people to, you know, to be able to carry on as a band, having that. Otherwise, you get this division, don't you? As I say, one day you wake up and why are they living on a mansion on the hill? And I'm not. You know, we're in the same band, and I think
Simon, with guys living in bands.
That two things about that. One is that, going back to Ginger Baker. One is, I don't know if he got any writing credits. Maybe on Toad. Didn't he? There's another drum solo one as well. Maybe on those he got a a writer credit.
Yes.
But probably not on anything else. And let's be fair, in the 60s, you know, that era of, managers and, not great contracts with things, it wouldn't surprise me, if it's taken 40 years to get some proper remuneration from those songs by Eric Clapton, or Jack Bruce or Pete Brown, the people who wrote them. I would suggest, that that's probably the case. So he's probably in, he's got a double-edged sword there of, it was the 60s, therefore the contracts were rubbish. 2, they never gave him a writing credit because after he's only the drummer, which is not true, of course not true. So even, excuse me, even people like Led Zeppelin, Bonham gets writing credits. Not all of them are, are all the bands, but quite a lot of them are, Page, Plant, Jones, Bonham kind of thing, which obviously means he's getting some, he's getting some royalties off of that.
And then on the other extreme, Simon, you get a guy like Sammy Hagar, who in his book, and he's got clips on YouTube where he talks about Alex Van Halen, who gets a cut of everything. And he said, Alex Van Halen's never written a song in his life. So to be fair, sure, Alex probably hasn't written a song, but jeepers, he's an awesome drummer. and how many riffs has he contributed to?
Well, and if you had a different drummer, it wouldn't be Van Halen, would it?
Yeah.
If you Eddie Van Halen writes a song, he brings it to the studio. Alex does whatever he does, and
is that right in a song? Is that right in a song though, Simon? A drummer adding his
adding his bits, changing, maybe changing some stuff. I think that there's a thing between writing and arranging, isn't there? What you're doing is you write a song. So I've got 3 chords and a bit of lyric, whatever. I bring it to the band and I go, here's my idea.
Sure.
I'm in satisfaction. I've got a riff, dun, 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 which I woke up in the middle of the night, recorded on a thing, went back to sleep again. So I bring that to the band, and then, because everyone knows that when the Stones record, it's really a lot of messing about. And then all of a sudden, Charlie and Keith, isn't it? And it is Charlie and Keith go, it's a bit like a camera being out of focus, and all of a sudden it comes into focus, and then you've got to catch the moment, press the button for God's sake, because they're doing it. The magic is there. They're doing the magic. They're doing that thing that they do. And I think that so that doesn't make Charlie Watts' contribution any less than Keith Richards, because that's where the magic happens. That's where the two things mesh. They come into focus, and all of a sudden you haven't got a riff. You've got a song. Now, I mean, that's what I would say. Riffs coming up with bits, things half baked. You bring it to a band, they provide the focus, the framework, and fix it so that it becomes a real song. So the bass player will have to come up with his own bass part and play it. Nobody else is telling him what to play. So I think that that those things are very difficult to work out, and so obviously Sammy Hagar's got one view. He's like, what has he ever written? Which means, what riffs has he ever written? Whatever, he didn't come up with a chord sequence, and maybe a riff and everything, but he still contributed. That's what I was saying about, the arrangement. He still contributed that song because he's made it. They are the four people in Van Halen. He's one of them. He plays what he plays in the style that he plays in. And he's not, I don't know, Lars Ulrich or something,
Sure.
With Metallica. So therefore, it's a Van Halen song and not a Metallica song. When you get somebody else in, and it becomes different. What they bring becomes different, and that's. So I think they should deserve some sort of credit for that. And I think that's why bands like U2 do what they do, because they recognise that, Larry brings the drums, There's a funny story about U2 when they first started, typical, when they were sort of trying to get a deal, and they sort of went to Ireland. Somebody in Ireland said, you ought to fire the drummer, he's not very good. And they said, we can't fire the drummer, it's his band.
Yeah. There were a couple of references too made to Adam Clayton, the bass player. I think a couple of people said, get rid of your bass player. You can't. But they knew he couldn't play bass. But Bono wanted him in the band because he was a friend and he was cool and he looked cool and And
that's worth quite a lot. And what you do is what you do. What you play is what you play. And it wouldn't, if it had Stanley, let's be extreme, if it had Stanley Clark in it or Jaco Pastorius, it wouldn't be U2, would it? You'd be like, what's going on? It wouldn't be U2, it'd be something else.
Having played in bands in the past and yourself, but being a musician in the past, we all know that what it's like. Even if you're playing at a party with 10 people or 15 people, we all know what it's like when you're playing with someone that's cool.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Oh yeah, when you or somebody's really good, and what they bring, and you think, blimey, they were good. Well, I've played in, where we've had stand-in musicians, who are, who've been absolutely fantastic, and you think, wow, they're really good, aren't they? Yes, they are. And you notice the difference that it makes to your band. If they're a much better musician than you're used to playing, it does make a difference to the band. But and that goes both ways. It's not, if you've got your mates and you're like U2, your mates, and that band makes that sound, with those four guys. And if it wasn't those four guys, it'd be something else. Because take one of them out, it's not the same. So I think that it's really worthwhile sticking with what you've got. But the trouble is, you've got the Beatles argument, haven't you? The Beatles had Pete Best. Would the Beatles have been the same with Pete Best?
No, because Ringo
was a better drummer than Pete Best.
Paul McCartney said many times, Simon, he said that they were drumming, they had a drummer and they were playing, and when Ringo jumped on the drums and started drumming, Paul looked at John and George and they looked at each other and wow, he made them better musicians.
The magic happens.
Yeah. Paul McCartney on record saying that Ringo made them better musicians.
Completely, and yet, that thing about, does Ringo get a credit for the stuff he did? I mean, he gets credit, but he doesn't get writing credits, does he? Right. George Harrison had to fight for some of his songs to be on Beatles albums, but pretty much mainly Lennon McCartney. And you have to say, in hindsight, is that fair? Is that equitable? Actually, Harrison and and Ringo, they deserved some equal credit in some of the songwriting. Nobody else came up with the drumming in Rain other than Ringo Starr.
Yep.
Nobody told him to play that. He just blooming did it. And that makes that and making and he made the Beatles what they were, because they weren't that with Pete Best. So not having any writer's credit for it is a tricky thing, isn't it? But that's the '60s, so it's a different time. People did things differently, started to get into self-writing. But I think nowadays, I think completely, absolutely. The thing is, if you're in a band, you've split it 4 ways somehow.
Oh well, that's my view, Simon. That's my personal view. Yeah. But that's the type of guy I am. I would if I'm in a band and if I came along with some lyrics and gave it to you and you came up with this riff and to me, and I was like, wow, this is what a band should be doing, and the bass player's going, okay,
I know what to do. And the drummer's going, yeah, I can do something there and a bit there and there's something there.
And then Simon might say, slow down a bit, slow it down. Okay, so we'll slow it down.
Yeah. Have you ever?
You just wrote a song.
Talking of drummers doing stuff. Have you heard the Trogs tapes ever?
The Trogs.
You've heard of the Trogs? Yeah.
Yes.
Wild Thing. Well,
yes.
There's a famous kind of tape of them in the studio, right? And it's on YouTube. It's bound to be on YouTube. It's absolutely hysterical. Them basically, they're trying to get the drummer to do something. Go da 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 da, yeah, and he keeps going da 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 da, and they're going, "No, you an idiot! It's not that." It's absolutely hysterical. They talk about sprinkling some fairy dust on it and stuff. Look it up and have a listen. It's lots of swearing, so I won't do it on here. But it's absolutely hysterical about what a band is like in the studio, and they're all in the control room and the drummer's out there. He's trying to do what they want. It's not working at all.
We got a
really
new
funny.
person in the chat, Simon. Wexcalibur.
Wexcalibur. Great name. I guess the Trogs, yes. Yeah, one for the teenagers, Wexcalibur. See, we're right up on it, me and Andrew.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to agree with Wexcalibur. George was stiff. Certainly, he was no Keith Richards. And Ringo was animated. They certainly loosened up as the decade progressed. But what a band, though.
Completely, yeah. It's where do those things start and finish? And I think obviously just going back to completely the same, and I think probably Ginger Baker feels like that as well. That he contributed as much to Cream as the other two. After there's only 3 of them, and doesn't get any kind of writing credit.
I think he's got a point. I think he's got a point, Simon.
Me too. Yes, me too. He should. Eric. Jack Bruce didn't. They're doing "Sunshine of Your Love." And so him and Pete Brown, knock up this do 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 do. But they haven't got the drums. They haven't got the driving bit of the rhythm. What's the rhythm section going to? The drums going to do to emphasize. Drive it along, give it a groove. All those things that, without it, it's not, or with a different thing is a different song. It's an interesting thing about covers, I suppose, isn't it? You bring what you bring to a cover, and make it something that you do, not something that is just a copy, unless you're in a tribute band and then you're after authenticity about copying it. But I'm not in a covers. I'm in a covers band, not a tribute band. So I think there's a distinction between the two. So I understand that thing about. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Simon. I caught up with Carl.
Yeah,
on Monday.
is he good? Is he good?
Yeah, good. So we caught up and we had a jam, and I took my Epiphone
What, the casino?
ES355,
Yeah.
and he brought his Gibson, and I gave it to him to play, and he was blown away by it. And he said something really interesting to me. He said, and he thought it sounded remarkably good, and that was good because he's got a bloody better ear than me.
Good.
But he said something that was very interesting. He said, "So why then American guitars $5,000 and guitars made in China under $1,000? Are we getting ripped off?"
That's the nature of trade agreements between countries. America will, deliberately put the price up. So when you import it into New Zealand, it's at a premium price because you're paying an import duty back to, as part of a trade agreement back to America for the, to bring this stuff in. And it'll be a different trade agreement with China than it will be with the US, which will mean that the tariffs will be different.
Yeah, it was an interesting comment for me, and and I appreciated his honesty because he's got a Gibson, and he played the $4,000. Yeah, how do you measure a $4,000 difference, and other than what's on the headstock?
The law of diminishing returns. I mean, on this, just going back to my Italian holiday.
Yeah,
I played a PRS private stock guitar. Right?
Yeah.
Now, private stock is is £10,000.
Sure.
Yeah? So it's that 20,000 New Zealand dollars, 2 to 1.
Yep.
What are we, 2 to 1 roughly?
Yep.
So that's $20,000, right? I played a £4,000 Sur guitar. In fact, it's like a tele version of this one. It had the same top. Had the same top on it as well.
Yeah.
They kept teasing the guy who bought it, going, "Have you bought your Chapman?" Lee, have you bought your Chapman? Which is jolly me. I played them both. Now, this is a £200 guitar. Okay,
Cool.
So is the PRS £10,000 guitar 50 times better than this guitar? Nowhere near it. It really isn't.
Wow.
It's a bit. Of course, it's better because But what you're paying for is you're paying for hand-picked materials. You're paying for handmade things and like that. But is it really 50 times better than this guitar? No, it isn't. Was that £4,000 Sur? 80 times? No, it wasn't. They are better guitars because they're better made. But I'm a great believer in, actually, these things are worth as much as what this is. This is a mahogany body guitar. Like a Sur.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, the materials, might be cheaper cuts or whatever. But actually, a lot of it is what you're using, and they weren't. The £10,000 guitar is not 50 times better. The my guitar, the £4,000 one is not 20 times better than that guitar.
What about the cost of labor argument?
Oh well, you see, that's what you're paying for. No, completely, that's what you're paying for. You're paying made in America. You're having to pay people, $25 an hour. If you pay people in China, you're having to pay them $2.5 an hour. And that's where the difference is completely. You're having to pay people properly to, and then you're saying, well, we're making, beautiful bits of wood and we're really hand picking it and it's been dried for 20 years and it's been, we're picking out the best tops, that match the best and the most beautiful to look at, and so, that would cost money, I mean, let's be, guitar wood will be sold at a premium. If you turn up at a timber yard and say, "Hello, I'm from PRS. I come to buy some wood," they won't be going, "Certainly, sir. A few planks, sir. £5 kind of thing." They'll be going, "Step this way into our private wood collection, sir. We can sell you lots of things, but very expensive." So I think the materials are very expensive because they're, old. you know, and you know what it's like. You, in a sense, you're paying for, you know, if a piece of wood is 20 years old, you're paying for 20 years worth of storage. Yeah.
So Sonia's making a good point. You know, she's got inexpensive guitars,
Yeah.
but click. Well. Can I just show you this one, Simon? So this is a Music Man. That
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a Music Man where I put in a JB
In the
pickup,
neck. Yeah.
and I've put in a if you can read that there, I put in a German Floyd Rose.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I've never played a Music Man Axis or a Music Man Van Halen guitar. You know, they're 6, 7, 8 grand here in New Zealand, and that's just unaffordable. But this guitar, couple of $100, and the upgrades a couple of $100.
See, that's the joy of it. To me, that's the joy of it. Is get a nice playing guitar, do a few upgrades, which is obviously when I've spoken about this. You know what I've done to this guitar.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
this has got 2 Suhr single coils and a thornbuffer in the thing.
Yep.
And you know, and actually, you know, it's got a really nice neck. You know, because it's designed, and I think you underestimate this, but you know, that guitar that you're holding, its major feature, apart from anything else, is designed by a guitarist.
Yeah.
It's designed by a guitarist, you know, or in collaboration with a guitarist. So there is something about a guitarist going, what I want in terms of a neck and feel and all those things, you know, that it's the same whether you've got a $200 guitar and you're CNCing it, or whether you've got a hand-built kind of, you know, somebody with a plane doing it. And, you know, I think those basic design things still come through, and it comes through on your guitar there, you know, and the joy is to, as you say, to replace the pickups with better pickups, and you know, put a German Floyd Rose on it and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a pretty decent guitar. You know,
and I'm happy with that, because that's got the mojo of a guitar that he was playing in the early 1990s. I'm happy. That's
completely. Yeah.
I'm a pig in mud.
Happy as a pig in mud. Yes. Yeah. You know, and I think, Excalibur, I agree. You know, it's about the sound and the tone that you can produce, not about, you know, how much it costs. You know, you give Eric Clapton a 200 quid guitar, he'll sound like Eric Clapton, and he'll sound great. Funny enough, that's not so much about the guitar. It's about what he can do with it. You know, the tone in his fingers, the way he plays and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I play, if I play at home, I pretty much always just plug straight into my amp.
Yep.
Straight in. I don't normally. I was messing about the other day with my D&M Keeley drive, which is great fun. But mostly, I just plug my guitar straight in the amp, straight in my VV, and play clean. You know, and I work on getting a nice, rounded, clean sound. That's what I really like. You know, the world's divided into two. You know, people who go straight for the distortion channel, and those people who play clean. I.e., do you play with a Marshall or do you play with a Fender? Well, I've got a PV Delta Blues, which is a Fender, but it's it's how many guitars do I own? I own 5 guitars, Excalibur. I own 4 electrics and a little acoustic parlor guitar, Martin parlor guitar, which is very nice. Currently on loan to one of my daughter's friends to learn. She's just walking past and giving me the eye.
Look, having owned, or been an owner of a couple of Fenders and a couple of Chinese-made Fenders, and I've said this to you a lot of times, Simon. It's very, very hard to tell the difference. Very hard to tell the difference. In fact, my Chinese made in China custom vibe guitar, it's beautiful. Plays well.
Yeah. Plays well. Beautifully made, properly made, properly organised. It's just that I think that that thing about. And I watched the thing about. Have you heard of an American guitarist called Rhett Shull?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he did a thing the other day about, I saw watched one of his videos, which was about CNC machine versus hand cut.
Yeah.
And he did a, he just showed what a CNC machine does, and then what a guy doing it with a, and one, they're still using the same tools to do it, except there's one bloke, actually moving the router around and kind of, and then there's the machine doing it. But, to be honest, the result's the same, you cut out the chambers in the guitar kind of thing. And yeah, pretty much they looked the same. I mean, the hand cut one was a bit rough around the edges, probably had to do a bit more work on it. But, you think to yourself, well, that's not going to make any difference to the sound, is it? Yeah, the fact that I cut it out with a CNC machine cannot be a tone thing. These are the tone thing.
Yeah.
So I, your Chinese-made guitar. I mean, Shane from In the Blues spends his life, buying, getting cheap guitars and then going, wow, these are really good.
Yep.
And I think he's completely right about that. That these days, no better time to be learning to play the guitar now, because you can buy a £200 guitar that you can easily gig with. No problem about gigging with it. As a semi-pro musician.
Dave won't mind me mentioning this, but he's bought a couple of guitars recently from China, and he upgrades them. He brought a Telecaster, that was relicked, and he changed the bridge, the pickups, the tuning pegs, and it's a $5,000 guitar. It looks like a $5,000 custom shop Telecaster.
Yeah, and it's, to me, do you know what? To me, having done it the once, with that Chapman, it's such fun.
John Smith.
Oh, John Smith, how you doing?
Sorry, Simon.
No, it's fine. It's all right. I was just saying that it's how much fun it is to do that. Actually, to buy a cheaper guitar and put the things that you want on it, and the pickups you want, and researching the pickups, and maybe putting Locky tuners on it, or different tuners, or as you putting your German Floyd Rose on yours. And I think that's really good fun. Find a guitar with a nice neck that you can play, and then upgrading it to what you want. I think is an interesting and worthwhile thing to be doing. Hang on, I'm just going to move a minute because there's a. That's all right. It's fine. We're good. I'm just gonna.
Dave, you've got 70 pedals. Shit. 70 pedals.
Well done. That's 70. Well done, Dave. That's really putting it in. Right. Let's see if I can make this work. So I've just moved into the sitting room because the kids are getting up for school and stuff.
Oh, no problem. Right. Yeah, so just we'll go for another 10, 15 minutes if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. And then I need to take my daughter to school and stuff. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the great joys is taking relatively cheap guitars and upgrading them and kind of 70 pedals and only 2 feet. That's what I say.
Yeah. And John Smith's calling him a tap dancer.
Tap dancer. He's got fuzz. It's fuzz pedals.
He's got a fuzz.
Are you?
Yeah. I've kept away from the fuzz. I keep away.
Are you for the fuzz or against the fuzz? I'm not sure I can ask that question really.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Oh look, Sonia, I've got a Boss GT3 multi-effects pedal that makes me, I should be excommunicated from the guitar community, which I've shown on here a couple of times, which is a great thing for doing gigs and having loads of different sounds at your disposal. Mm-hmm. Really good, this gig we did last week. Was it last week? Last week, yeah, last weekend. The PA man, the joy in his face. You could just take a DI straight out of the pedal, straight into the PA.
Wow.
No problems at all. If you've got a DI on the amp, nope. I've got one on a pedal board, fill your boots. And, and that was, so the small things can be useful. But it's funny, isn't it? I'm in the I don't get fuzz territory. You know, whenever I hear people playing fuzz, that kind of fuzzy bit doesn't float my boat at all. I don't really know why, but it doesn't in an odd way. But, so I think, you know, the world could be divided into those people who like fuzz and those people who don't.
The problem with fuzz people is that they want the fuzz, but they're searching to get that clear chord. They want to be able to get to be able to hear a chord, Simon. And I don't think you can. You can't when you're playing fuzz.
No, and that's what I don't like about it. I don't think the fact that you can't really hear the notes, because you know, even you know, that when you're using drive and stuff like that, I don't like to use you know, I prefer to use not too much drive, so that you know, you get that kind of ring, that kind of, you can hear the individual notes, hear the individual things going on.
Well, Dave said that it's a crazy experiment, so we should call him Fuzzenstein. Frankenstein, the Fuzzenstein. How's the experiment going, Dave?
Dr. Fuzzenstein.
Yeah, I played at the local music shop. They had a couple of years ago, you might remember, they brought out Jimi Hendrix reissued Fuzz.
Oh, the
round thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I played it, and I just didn't get it.
Is it something about if you're not playing it through a cranked 100-watt Marshall?
Probably.
And it's set in the right way, then you're, in a sense, what you've got is one bit of the puzzle, but not the rest of it, kind of thing. And that one bit of the puzzle doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
You know, on its own, you go, well, that isn't, you know, what? You know, because you've got just that one thing. And I think unless you've got it all,
I think you've hit the nail on the head. You've got to be able to crank half that gear up for it to have an effect in the loop.
Yeah, you know, and being able to do that, it's the Excalibur asks, have we heard of The Warning, which is an all-girl band from Mexico, which I've not heard of. I just did look them up. Excalibur. They did a cover of Enter Sandman, which seemed to have given them some notoriety on YouTube. So I might check that out later. Yeah, all-girl band sounds cool. As a man with 3 daughters, I'm always interested in what that sort of thing's doing. That's cool. And I'm worried about Sonia. She was after getting Black Sabbath sounds. That's you get a Laney amp and turn it up loud, Sonia, who'd be fine. If the neighbours can cope. So, but yeah, pretty much. See, Kubrick Level 1972's got, you know, he's got a Fender Squire Bullet Strat and an Epiphone Les Paul Special too. You know, we're all in the same boat of, you know, not having millions to spend on guitars, but actually still buying, you know, I'm sure that Fender Squire Bullet is a good guitar, and I'm sure that Epiphone's a good guitar too. You know, perfectly good for playing. Talking of that, I did the gig I went last week. The gig we played at last week, there were half a dozen bands. And one of them, I'm sure, did I mention it? One of them was a Creedence Clearwater Revival tribute band called Creedence Clearwater Revival, which I think is a great name for a band. But the guitarist in that, he had a Fender Blues Deluxe, Tweed Deluxe, and he had a Bodner pedal called Lagrange. Yep. And he made a Les Paul. He made a phenomenal sound.
Wow!
Like, bloody hell, that wow! You know, it was like, oh, that's a sound and a half. I could get on board with that. No problems at all. It was amazing sound. You know, just one pedal. He didn't have loads. Just, you know, that clean. You know, the obviously the humbuckers into a clean amp, but using this pedal to, you know, to get not too much drive. That kind of ZZ Top type drive sounded fantastic. Really did sound good. You know, just one pedal, not messing about. Oh, they do Foo Fighters as well, do they? The Warning.
Oh, okay.
Sonny's got a Tony Iommi signature.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. I can't wait to see her posts on social media when she gets that one.
Sonia, the secret metal fan.
Yeah. Tony Iommi.
Well done, Sonia. This is great. Yes, can't wait to see that.
Yeah. What colour, Sonia? Is it a black one?
Got to be black, isn't it? If it's Tony Iommi.
Has to be.
Yeah, right, Wet Excalibur. They do their own songs as well. That's very cool. Check them out. Check them out later. So I've got the day off for the Queen's birthday. Yeah. But so going back to the thing. I think that one of the great joys of is finding a cheaper guitar that you can mod and turn into something that that you really like. I mean that Chapman I've got is it had very kind of it had a Seymour Duncan in the bridge that was, I don't know, it was very high powered. It was like a sort of 15K output. It's like and I found it a bit uncontrollable really, which proves what a rubbish guitar player I am. But I didn't like the sound of it at all. Much too high gain, much too. So I mean that Thornbucker's 8.5K output. So I probably put half the output back into it than I did when I did the one it had in when I got it. For me, much nicer sound.
Well, Dave Wednesday's store, he bought one of these, which is the vintage brand Les Paul, which is what they call the lemon drop, Simon.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And what Dave did with his one is he put a Bixby tremolo on there,
right?
And pick guard, because he wanted to make it look like Keith Richards' Les Paul, and that he's playing in the mid-60s. And again,
right,
that's $800 here in New Zealand, maybe $300-400 for a Bigsby trem, and he's got a guitar that's probably 5-10 grand, depending on what model you get from Gibson.
Yeah, completely. But and I think the fun of doing that and getting it so that it works and it will do what you want it to do, and it sounds like you want it to sound is really exciting. I think having a Bigsby is quite a brave move on the tuning front, but
well, he reckons it holds pretty well, but he doesn't use the trem though, so I suppose that's probably the key.
Right, okay, yeah, just
but I'd be too scared to put one on, because at least you've got the forward rows, you can clamp it. It takes a half an hour to tune it, but once you've tuned it and clamped it, it's not going to go anywhere.
It's funny that, isn't it? I had a really interesting discussion the other day about people, and I've sort of fallen into this trap, I suppose, that locking tuners do not affect your tuning at all. I can't remember who was saying it. Who was talking about it? I can't remember, but they were saying that that they didn't think that putting locking tuners on a guitar affected its tuning at all.
Really?
Which is really odd, because I'd have to say my experience would be somewhat different to that. And my Fender Strat, my Japanese Fender Strat, I put locking tuners on it pretty much as soon as I got it. And that guitar stays in tune from 1 month to the next. If I don't get it out, I'll get it out of band practice tomorrow night, having not played it for a week, and it'll be in tune. I don't think any of my other guitars.
Yep, I had an Ibanez, Simon, that had locking tuners, but it didn't have a trem system. I had that for about 3 months, and I only tuned it once.
Yeah, see, whereas with a, and my other guitars with standard tuners, I tune them all the time.
Me too.
Actually, not the Chapman. The Chapman's better because it's got locking tuners on it as well. But I've got two other guitars, the Telecaster and another Chapman, a Les Paul copy that has, tune them all the blooming time. Drives me nuts.
One thing I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 years, Simon, here in New Zealand, is the temperature fluctuations. It's amazing the different. Like, I might have a guitar that I haven't played, say, for 6 weeks, and you might go from say the end of summer to what's the season comes after summer?
Autumn.
Sorry. and and we've had some horrendously hot summers, and the temperature might drop, say, 8 degrees, and the differences in the tuning on my guitar, it's remarkable, the amount of adjustment I have to do to tune it, and it's never been like that for a long time, but certainly something I've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's actually what is it? Yes, climate change. Yeah. I think yes. I think that's as I say. I just what was I saying? Put some Spurs on a Fender Keith Telecaster. No idea if it's any better than a fake one. Yeah, I don't know, but it was just something that really interested me. I do interested in other people's experience of because I had my experience, and I've had that Fender a long time, like 32 years.
Yeah.
Is that the tuning stability with the Spurs or locking tuners on it is like unbelievable.
Wow.
How little I have to tune it, and I had, if you'd asked me up until 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember who was discussing it, but maybe it was Hack actually. It was Hack and somebody else. Dave's R Guitars. I think it's actually Hack and Dave R's Guitars. They were discussing, and they were saying, no, if your nuts lubricated properly and you wound it on properly, then they should say to you, I was like, God, I've been conned all these. No, I haven't. But yeah, it was very interesting, and I completely kind of turned on my head my idea that the Spurs or locking tuners, not only obviously you can change the string much more quickly, just poke it through, tighten it up, stretch it, bingo, we're in tune, we're rolling. But yeah, there's tuning stability. I would have put my house on this tuning stability being better. But with the locking Spurs. So I'm interested, in what other people's experience of them is. I mean, Sonia's saying that she most of her guitars don't have them, and they stay in tune pretty good, which is she's never used locking tuners. Her guitar seems to stay in tune quite well. Just interested, really. As I say, it's just something that, as usual, one's preconceptions about something turned on their head by what somebody says and stuff. So yeah. Do any of yours have locking tuners? Actually, do they?
No. I've had no. I had, like I said, I had an Ibanez that had locking tuners. I've got a couple of guitars here. They've got flawed roses, but they're clamped. But I've had no need, Dave, really, over the years. To put locking tuners on.
No.
I have thought about one of my strats of maybe getting some locking tuners, because, like I've said to you, over the last couple of years, I've certainly noticed the differences in humidity and the summer, and that certainly has had an effect on the tuning of my guitars. But yeah. And they're not cheap too for a good set. You're looking at $300 New Zealand.
Yeah, it's about God, that is a lot more expensive. You see, it's about £70 in England for a set of Spurs locking tuners.
Yeah, just under 300 here.
Yeah, that is expensive, isn't it? Yeah. I'll buy you a set and send them to you. 30th of the price.
I'll just keep my tuner to Simon.
Are you ready?
Keep my tuner on there.
Okay.
Hey,
my daughter's announced she needs to go to school.
Good to talk to you, my friend.
In that way that only 15-year-olds can do.
Do you want to say goodbye to everybody before you shoot off? That's cool.
Yeah. Guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Sonia, Arvin, Wexcalibur, good to meet you. Kubrick Lover 1972. What else we got? Obviously, we had Guitar Hack earlier on.
Yep.
Wednesday Store. Dave, thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been John Smith, of course. John Smith. Who is that man? I think that's everybody. So thanks very much, guys, for tuning in and contributing. Carl, really cool.
Carl, if anyone doesn't know that,
yes. Yeah, dear. Yeah, it's been really
Right,
cool.
I'll
It's
see
been
you
really
next
good
week.
fun. Lovely. Fantastic. Yeah. See you next week. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks, Simon.
Take care all. Bye. Bye.